Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mon Kurin going live today from Tiju's Academy, Tiruvalla. Hope all of you are doing good. And let's start today's session. Let's see what we have for you today. So it's been some time that I was not there, so I'm back again today with the speaking session for IELTS. So let's start. Let's see what do we have today. So it says how to make IELTS speaking easier, right? How to make IELTS speaking easier. എങ്ങനെയാണ് IELTSന്റെ speaking easy ആക്കുന്നത്? And as you know, the dates are coming now. Most of the students here are preparing for the IELTS and they are planning to go for the September intake-ന് വേണ്ടി എല്ലാവർക്കും പുറത്ത് പഠിക്കാനും ജോലിക്ക് വേണ്ടി പോകാനുണ്ട്. So everybody is really busy practicing speaking. So let's see how you can make speaking very easy and how you can get a good score in your speaking sessions. Right, so let's see. Let's go with the first slide and let's see what the first slide says. Right. So first thing is you don't have enough practice speaking. എന്താണ് പ്രാക്ടീസ് നമ്മൾ അധികം ചെയ്യാറില്ല, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അതൊരു ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ടി ആയിട്ട് തോന്നുന്നത് നമുക്ക്. സോ വാട്ട് ക്യാൻ വി ഡു? സോ ലെറ്റ്സ് സീ. So one of the biggest pitfalls many students face is the lack of speaking practice. This leaves them nervous when speaking to the assessor. Assessor ആരാണ് ഇവിടെ? The examiner, which negatively impacts their performance. However, this is a relatively easy challenge to overcome. So let's go step by step. ഇതെന്താ ഇവിടെ പറയുന്നത്? So one of the biggest pitfall many students face is the lack of speaking practice. That's very important. What happens is you only practice when you come over to an institute or when you're practicing with your friends at home or your family at home or wherever you're practicing. So make sure when you're practicing, you practice the maximum. Because what happens is we speak in our mother tongue, Malayala, we speak in our mother tongue. And what happens is the maximum in 24 hours, you'll be speaking around 20 hours in Malayalam or in your mother tongue. And you hardly speak in English. So if you don't have enough practice, how will you perform for your IELTS examination? നമുക്ക് perform ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ലല്ലോ അവിടെ. So the more you practice, the better for you and it will help you in your examination. So let's read the next para. What does it say? However, this is a relatively easy challenge to overcome. അത് നമുക്ക് easily overcome ചെയ്യാം. We can overcome this. How? Carve out some time a day to simply have conversations with family and friends. Ideally, this could be face-to-face conversations where both people talk back and forth, sharing opinions and challenging viewpoints. ഞാൻ ഇതിന് മുമ്പ് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, the IELTS examination is not a one-to-one conversation ആണെങ്കിലും face to face ആണെങ്കിലും you will be asked questions and you will be in between the examiner will interrupt you and ask you why, and he or she may ask you about your opinions as well, right? So what do we do here? So when you practice, make sure in your practice sessions നമ്മൾ practice ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ with your family or your friend or any institute that you go, right, try to converse more. Try to do more practice sessions, right? And opinions and examples ഇട്ട് സംസാരിക്കാൻ നോക്കണം. You will be having your task cards or your cue cards, especially for part 2, right? അത് പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഫോളോ അപ്പ് വരുമ്പോൾ or your warm up questions വരുമ്പോൾ make sure you try to give some inputs, extra inputs like an example or an opinion that will help you in practicing speaking easy in your examination when you go for your final examination. Right. This allows you to get consistent practice and get exposed to new conversation topics and feel comfortable talking in English. Right? So the more you practice, the better for you. നമ്മൾ എത്ര പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നു അത് നമുക്ക് അത്രയും നല്ലതാണ്. Why? Because you know it is a challenge to speak in a foreign language because English is not your mother tongue, because we speak in our mother tongue most of the time. So it's always good to practice the maximum or the more, because when you go for the examination, it's going to help you. You will not be that nervous. Okay. Second, എന്താ പറയുന്നത് നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം. Your vocabulary needs to increase. Vocabulary എന്താണ് ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. It's always good to have more vocabulary in your speaking content. അല്ലേ, നമ്മളെ ഡിക്ഷണറിയിൽ when you speak, it's always, instead of using the same word over and over again, it's always good to have a wide range of vocabulary, right? So എന്താണ് ഇത് പറയുന്നത്? Let's read this and let's try to understand what does it say. Your vocabulary needs to increase, right? One more thing I would like to put down here is vocabulary also counts 25% of your weightage in the IELTS speaking. 25% vocabularyക്ക് വേണ്ടി മാറ്റി വെച്ചേക്കുന്നത്, apart from the other three, that's your grammar and the fluency and the pronunciation. So vocabulary is 25%. So this has an equal weightage out of the 4. So what does this say? Your vocabulary needs to increase. If you feel overwhelmed and not being able to express yourself, that's a clear sign that your vocabulary needs to increase, right? Your vocabulary use is a key area that is being assessed during the IELTS speaking test. This includes the range of your vocabulary and the accuracy of use. A wide range of vocabulary allows you to speak across different topics and domains, which is essential to get a good score. This means the effective use of synonyms, words with similar meaning, and antonyms, words with opposite meanings, right? So vocabulary നമ്മൾ പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ, and I remember in my previous live sessions, in my older live sessions, I have said that there are many apps that you can download where all you need to type is just type in the word and you'll get the synonyms of it and the antonyms. So it's always good to have a wider range of vocabulary instead of repeating the same word over and over again. It's always good to have a wider range of vocabulary so that the examiner is impressed and he or she knows that, oh yeah, you know a lot of words, a lot of vocabulary, and this is going to give you a better score in your speaking sessions. So synonyms endana, antonyms endana, I hope all of you know, right? I'm 100% sure most of you know what's synonyms and what's antonyms. So let's look at a few of them. നമുക്ക് കുറച്ച് നോക്കാം what are those, right? So some examples of synonyms: huge, massive, big, gigantic, right? Instead of saying the same word over and over again, like huge, big, you can use, go ahead, you can say huge, massive, big, gigantic, right? Enormous. അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോകും. So you, as I mentioned, there are lots of apps available, right, which will give you synonyms and antonyms as well. So synonyms are huge, massive, big, gigantic. Antonyms opposite aana, it's not same. So rich in the poor aana, generous in the selfish aana. So you can use more vocabulary, more words to get a better score, right? And you'll be confident also. So this only helps when you follow the first rule, that is you practice more, the better for you. Okay, and let's read the remainings. What does it say? The best way to get started is to begin reading extensively and to read a lot. Very important nowadays. The most of the students that come here and most of the students that I have interacted and I teach, I find that the reading skill or the reading part is missing. Most of the students or most of the candidates spend a majority of the time with their phones, or they don't have a reading habit. Some of the students don't even have a habit of reading the newspaper, right? Our newspaper bolum vaikyathilla, and I don't say it's not an English newspaper. You have you can read the news in the phone, right? But they don't. So vocabulary increase ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി the best way is to read a lot, right? എത്ര വായിക്കുന്നു, you get more new words, you know, you see a new word, അതിൻ്റെ meaning കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാം. You have the apps, you have a dictionary, you know the meaning, you find out the meaning of the new word, അതിൻ്റെ synonyms and the antonyms and അത് കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാം. But the only way is to read a lot, and that's one big challenge that I face here, is that nowadays people or the students or the candidates don't have a reading habit, right? That's missing. They don't go to the library to collect books or to get books issued and read it. Okay, don't read a newspaper, or don't physical copy, hard copy in the phone, right? Try reading as much as possible, right? This allows you to practice how the word is used in a sentence while also getting ample practice speaking it. And once you are done, be sure to add it to a list of your new vocabulary words and use them during your speaking sessions with family, friends, or your institute, wherever you are practicing. And this helps you to get familiar with utilizing your new expanded vocabulary library. So എന്താണ് യു ഹാവ് ടു റീഡ് ടു ഗെറ്റ് ന്യൂ വേർഡ്സ് ടു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് ന്യൂ വേർഡ്സ്. വായിച്ചാലല്ലേ നമുക്ക് പുതിയ വേർഡ്സിനെ പറ്റി അറിയാൻ പറ്റത്തുള്ളൂ. ആൻഡ് വെൻ യു റീഡ് യു നോ and you get a new word, you immediately do what do you do is you open up your dictionary, get to know the meaning, നമുക്ക് synonyms നോക്കാം, antonyms നോക്കാം, and you practice in your daily practice sessions. And once you practice, അത് automatically നിങ്ങളുടെ vocabulary ആയിക്കോളും. It will slowly come up over your vocabulary and you will know, but this means this and I can use it, this word in this way. So until unless you read, you are not going to get new words, and you'll only get new words when you read and you practice and use it in your daily vocabulary, daily speaking sessions. And the more you practice, the better for you, because it will stay in your mind, it will stay in your head, and you know this is the meaning of this word and I can use it in my daily practice sessions, right? So vocabulary, and that helps, that's only a way you can only get more vocabulary by reading a lot. So make sure you have a habit of reading. At least take half an hour of your time every day. Read the day, you have your phone with you, read the newspapers, the daily newspaper, be it anything, e-newspapers, ella newspapers, you get English newspaper, adu vaikyo you get new words, practice it. And this is going to help you in your future as well, because you're going to go to a native speaking country where they speak English, right? And when there you go, they'll have different vocabularies in their speaking. So adu namakku manasilavum, idana ayal uddesham, allengil this is what I have to say, and you will be confident in the long run. Okay, let's move over to the next slide, and namakku adutha slide nokam endana adu parayunu. Not being prepared with some topics to talk about. So you know that IELTS is all about some common topics that will be given to you, and they'll be asking you about your common topics. So even if it's the warm up il namakkariyam personal questions aayirikkum choikkune, family, home, work, studies and hobbies, what do you do, what you like, what you don't like. So make sure you are prepared for, you're ready to answer everything. So endana moonamathe slide parayna, let's see. It says not being prepared with some topics to talk about. Part 1 of the IELTS speaking test revolves around a range of familiar topics such as family, home, work, studies and hobbies. നമ്മൾ ഇതിൻ്റെ മുമ്പ് കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. പാർട്ട് 1 എല്ലാം പേഴ്സണൽ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ആണല്ലോ ചോദിക്കുന്നത്. what do you do, what you don't do, what you like, what you don't like. So make sure you are familiar with all the common topics that is asked in IELTS part 1, right? Other practice you are. Be prepared and be ready with all your, don't think when an examiner is going to ask you a question, our question ചോദിക്കുമ്പോൾ don't take time thinking for part 1, because part 1 is personal questions are ചോദിക്കുന്നത്. So it should be spontaneous, immediately ആയിരിക്കും നമ്മൾ അതിൻ്റെ ആൻസർ കൊടുക്കേണ്ടത്. I understand if it's part 3 follow up ആണെങ്കിൽ it's general and you need to think, you need to assess what the question is and then answer. But when it comes over to part 1, it's simple questions and it's personal questions. In personal questions you don't have to think, it's spontaneous. Do you like or you don't like, what do you do, what you don't do. So you don't take time thinking there, immediately ആയിരിക്കും അതിൻ്റെ ആൻസർ വരേണ്ടത്. So second para വായിക്കാം. This is one area of the speaking test that you can prepare beforehand. Very true. You can take the initiative and start preparing a range of topic with questions the examiner will likely ask you. A common topic could be the city, town that you live in. You can start brainstorming questions that can revolve around this, such as നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം common topics എന്തൊക്കെയാണ്. What kind of house do you live in? What do you love about your neighborhood, your town, your locality, right? Your hometown. All these are the part 1 questions. Part 1 ലാണല്ലോ അങ്ങനത്തെ questions വരുന്നത്. So make sure you, when you practice, and I believe most of you will have content ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കും, you will be having a lot of content. Go through it and practice, right? Instead of trying to memorize answers, start fleshing out the story in your mind and then practicing it in conversation with a friend or family member. This helps you to build your confidence, get comfortable talking about your background, and be able to draw ideas from your own experiences. Very true. IELTS is all about how natural you are in your English speaking ability and not giving memorized answers. ഞാനിത് ഒത്തിരി പ്രാവശ്യം പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട് before also. I have mentioned this many times. Whenever you're going for your IELTS examination, don't provide memorized answers, because memorized answers provide you, the examiner will immediately come to know that you're giving memorized answers. നമ്മൾ ഓർത്ത് വെച്ചിട്ട് നമ്മൾ വായിച്ച് or you have memorized those answers and you're giving it. So it's nothing, it's not that way, it doesn't work here in IELTS. IELTS is all about your natural speaking ability, how good you speak naturally the language English. So make sure when you are practicing you don't memorize that, right? It should come out naturally. Anything, any common topic, either common topic ayalum, then the part 1 is your warm up sessions, either common topics ayalum, make sure you don't memorize and give answers. Instead, when you practice, it should come out fluently, naturally adu varanam, right? And also it warm up on a part 1 warm up on, and you have to, you will be nervous, you will be anxious. So once you get used to it, you'll become more confident in giving answers in your part 2, that's your cue card or your task card session, and your part 3, that is your follow up sessions. So make sure you don't give memorized answers, and make sure you are practicing about all that's available in your content. നിങ്ങളുടെ കണ്ടന്റിൽ എന്തൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട് അതെല്ലാം പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യുക. about and easy questions ആണ്. part 1 is all about your likes, your dislikes, what you do, what you don't do, right? Personal question. And I had mentioned before, it's not a long answer കൊടുക്കേണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ല. 3 to 4 sentences is more than enough. That's more than enough for your part 1 of your IELTS speaking. Okay, let's move over to the next slide and see what the next slide says. You run out of ideas to talk about. That's very true. It happens because you don't have ideas, you don't know what to say. So it's just impossible to prepare for every single topic. Satyana, it's true. It's not possible. We are human beings. There will be a limit. നമുക്കൊരു ലിമിറ്റ് കാണും. എല്ലാ ടോപ്പിക്കിനെ പറ്റി നമുക്ക് സംസാരിക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല, right? ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു ടോപ്പിക് നമുക്ക്, if the examiner asks you about anything, that's not possible that you are prepared for it or you are ready with everything, right? But what can we do? It's just impossible to prepare for every single topic. Instead of trying to cherry pick topics that might seem viral or interesting to you, it's best to be well-read person. You would want to read up on current affairs, including world events, the internet, tourism and countries, education. ഇതാണ് common topics that comes around in your part 1. Part 1 ൽ ഇതിങ്ങനത്തെ questions ആയിരിക്കും വരുന്നത്. And yes, follow-ups if it's something related to world events, the internet, tourism and countries, education, അതും കാണാം, general ആയിട്ട് ചോദിക്കാൻ പറ്റും. But make sure you cover maximum of it, right? And if you don't know, be confident and then answer. You can say that I don't know the answer for that, but let me try to answer it. അങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് പറയാം. But it's always good to be well versed. അറിയണം, you should know, because it's anything can be asked out of the blue. ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു question ആയിരിക്കും നമുക്ക് വരുന്നത്. So you should be able to answer some part, if not the whole 100%, at least 70 to 75% നമുക്ക് ആൻസർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റണം. So make sure, right, cherry pick ചെയ്യുന്ന കാരണം you are well versed, you read a lot, and you are aware of the current affairs, including the world events, the internet, tourism, country, education. Fine. So let's go to the next slide and see what does that say. This helps you to develop a breadth of knowledge and the ability to talk about general topics. The key here is to relate the topic back to you, right? Adu relate cheyan nokkanam, and to your opinions as well, as to accomplish the task your examiner has for you in part 2 of the test. Building up your knowledge bank on current affairs also, sorry, it's a typo mistake there. So it's a typo. Current affairs also allows you to discuss issues further in part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. You'll be able to better analyze, discuss and speculate about issues using your knowledge of current world affairs. Yes. So part 2 will നമ്മൾ prepare ചെയ്ത് വരുമ്പോൾ, as you know, part 3 it's all general questions, and you have to give a expanded answer. Personal questions are warm up, 2 to 3 4 sentences is enough. But when it comes to the part 3, the follow-up sessions, you have to give a elaborate answer. Ad extend it at least 4 5 6 7 sentences ആയിരിക്കും നമുക്ക് ആൻസർ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്. And it is in general, not in personal, right? And you should know, you should be having a idea about what's happening around. നമുക്കത് ആൻസർ കൊടുക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി റെഡി ആയിരിക്കണം, right? So make sure when you're practicing, you should practice the maximum, the better for you, about all current affairs that you know, and also answer in a general way. Don't relate it to yourself in part 3. In part 3 it's general questions, Anna. So make sure you don't give personal, your own, keep it in a community, your country, and then answer. Fine. Let's go to the next slide. അടുത്ത slide നമുക്ക് പോയിട്ട് നോക്കാം എന്താണ് പറയുന്നത്. You get nervous. Very true. Examination in Pompo, it's a big thing that's happening in your life, and you will be nervous, you will be anxious. Adu ellarkum pattuna. It's common. It's everybody will have that fear. Everybody will be nervous and anxious. So what happens here? Feeling anxious or nervous is perfectly normal, but don't worry, you have this in the bag. So your control, focus on what you can control. Being fully prepared means doing timed IELTS mock speaking test with family and friends, right? Prepare ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി ഞാൻ എന്താ നേരത്തെയും പറഞ്ഞത്, the more you practice the better for you. Even if institute ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട്, if you're practicing in an institute or studying in an institute, make sure when you go back home, practice it with your family or your friends. Ask them, take their help, seek their help, and the more you practice the better for you, right? And be sure not to fall into these traps as a result of nervousness. എന്താണ് traps? Well, traps means something that's obstacles, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏതെങ്കിലും കൂടുക്കയിൽ വീഴുന്ന പോലെ. So constantly agreeing with the examiner without having your own opinion. So ഞാൻ എന്താണ് പറഞ്ഞത്, it's a two-way conversation. The examiner is going to stop you in between and ask you why. He may give his opinion or idea, and it's not that you have to agree with everything that the examiner says. You should have your own stand as well, right? So make sure you don't agree with the examiner all the time, right? You should have your own opinions and ideas as well, right? You should have your own stand, right? What does the next point say? Changing your accent to match the examiner's or your examiner's accent. No need. It's not about the accent I mentioned before. You should worry about the pronunciation. Accent is not the challenge. The pronunciation is challenge. The pronunciation is the challenge. Accent, every state has their own mother tongue, and each state will have their own accents, right? നമ്മൾ മലയാളീസ് ആണ്, നമുക്കൊരു ആക്സെൻറ്റ് കാണും. A North Indian, a Gujarati, a guy from Punjab, a guy from Rajasthan. Each state of people speaking their own mother tongue will have different kinds of accent. So the examiners are trained for it. So you don't have to worry about the accent. Your worry should be the pronunciation. Accent ഒരു challenge ആവല്ലേ. Accent, just talk in your way, the way you talk. Just talk proper English. That's it. Accent, don't worry. The examiners are trained. They know that നമ്മൾ ഈ state, we belong to this state, and we have an accent. So they are not worried. You should worry about the pronunciation. Make sure your pronunciation is correct. Okay, and trying to overuse big words or complex phrases to impress, right? Well, if you're this is kind of speculate chiyanaka, but if you're practicing, very good. If you have big words in your dictionary, in your vocabulary, big words under, right, and you know the meaning of it and you understand it, good, go ahead, use it. But then don't try to impress him. You must have heard it sometime before and you don't know the meaning of it, and you don't know where to use it, and you just try to fill it and use a big word. Don't do that. If you're practiced, fine, you know what the meaning of that word is, go ahead, use it, no worries. But if you don't know a word just to get more scores or just to impress the examiner, you think that you use a word that is big enough, right? It doesn't work that way. It should go with the context. It should be coming out naturally. So trying to overuse big words or complex phrases to impress, no, never. If you're practiced, if you know the words, fair enough, you can go and use it, but never to impress the examiner. So make sure you don't do that. Okay, let's see what does the last slide say. Instead, a better approach is to stay calm and not to rush the conversation during your IELTS speaking test, right? You want to focus on having an engaging conversation with another human being and to express your opinions and your views as naturally as possible. Very true. അത് ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും പറയാറുണ്ട്. As I said, it is all about your natural speaking ability, and it's a two-way. രണ്ട് ആൾക്കാരാ സംസാരിക്കുക, you and the examiner, right? When you are interacting with an examiner, make it exciting, right? Express your opinions, right? And as naturally as possible. Give examples, that's not a problem, right? But make sure you do it as naturally as possible. Don't give memorized answers. This is going to harm you in the long run, because the examiners are trained. They come to know that you are giving memorized answers. So adu orikilum cheyale. Be as natural as possible, right? Get more vocabularies, right? Practice makes perfect. And what else? Make sure when you're practicing with your friend and family, try to use those vocabularies daily. Pudhiya words use cheyan nokkanam, right? And speak as naturally as possible. So these were the few slides that I prepared for this live sessions, and I hope this helped you a lot. And I'll meet you the next time. Keep practicing, and we'll meet the next time. And hope you all practice, and we'll meet the next time. Take care. This is Mon Korean signing off from Tiju's Academy, Tiruvalla. Goodbye.